And welcome to UnJustified, where we always cover the truth, the facts, on an unbiased and sometimes very unpopular opinion. We always look at the good, the bad, the ugly. We look at all angles. Today we're going to be talking about something just a bit different. Today we're going to be talking about a letter. And this letter has always baffled me. It came out at a very bizarre time. And this letter could have made or break the case. I don't know. I just don't know. It could prove one thing or it could prove something entirely different. And so that's what I want to talk about today. There's been so many thoughts and opinions and metaphors about this letter, but there's never been an actual reason or answer as to why. There's so many whys surrounding this letter. We're going to look at the letter, we're going to talk about the letter, and something else that really gets to me about this is it's not talked about that much. But to me, this letter is a big deal. I've been in this case since about February. I'm not one of the people that has been, and there is many out there that has been like on this case since the day it broke. I'm not one of those people. I don't live in Colorado. I remember seeing it roughly when it happened, but it was just one of those kind of things that it was said and then it was just kind of not talked about again. It's obviously not going to be on my local channels very much, but so I just kind of forgot about it, and then I saw Lifetime was making that movie. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I set it to record, forgot about it again. And then flipping through the recordings one night, I saw it, like, oh yeah, I want to watch that. So I watched it, and then I just started digging in head first in the case. Anyway, that's how it came to be. There's so many unanswered questions, and this letter, one of them for sure. So I've saved many things I found about this letter along the way, and people's comments that they made about it, and just random things like that. And I'd never saved names, so I don't know who the comments came from. I may even be, talk about one of the comments, and it was the one that you've made, within the last couple of years. I don't know, because I don't save names, but I do save comments, and I do look and listen to all, good, bad, ugly, this side, that side. I look at everything. I'm on the outside looking in. And so I'm not wanting to judge a book by its cover kind of thing. I want to see every aspect, every detail to try to wrap my head around what's going on. I'm not a closed-minded person. I'm just not. I'm going to look at every angle, period. I just can't assume things because I can have an opinion like we all do. We can all have opinions and assume, but I can't stop at point A and never look at B, C, D. I have to look at everything. And so that's what we're going to do right now. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple of clips that I've saved along the way as well. And they do pertain to this letter, or the last clip is even going to mention this letter. So, let's just get right into that. Then we're going to look at the letter. I'm going to tell you about the comments and the metaphors and the possibilities and the thoughts and everything I've read along the way. After this video, I would really like for you to tell me your thoughts and opinions. Don't be afraid to voice them, okay? Don't. We all have them. As long as there's not victim bashing and, name calling and such as that. As long as you're handling your opinion on a intellectual thought process level, then don't be afraid to say them, because we've all got them. Because nobody's going to come up bashing you about your opinion. As long as you're not victim bashing, as long as you're not calling anybody names, then you're not doing anything wrong. You're speaking and voicing your thoughts and opinions, and that is how every case in this world is ultimately decided in the long run. That's why we have jurors, because each juror is going to have their own thought. How come you think cases happen in hung juries? Because people have different thoughts of opinion, right? How come you think Casey Anthony is walking free today? A lot of people's going to say it's because the jurors were scared or they were threatened, and that's a possibility. I don't know. I wasn't a juror. You know, some of them have said things. I wasn't there. At the same time, that's why we have a jury. That's why people are appointed to jury duty. It's because they have an opinion. Okay? So don't be scared to voice your opinion. That is your right. Nobody's going to come at you, and if they do, just for voicing your opinion, no matter what your opinion may be, then they're going to be deleted. It's going to be deleted, so don't worry about it. Not here. Here, we're unbiased. And if you can't look at things on an unbiased level, then maybe this is not the channel for you. Because here, we are like a mock jury. We try to look at every angle, every possibility, every reason, every why. Okay? That's what we do here. We're not looking at just one thing. So, anyway, don't be afraid to voice your opinion. Just don't call anybody a name. Don't degrade, belittle nobody. Just handle it like a professional would. Your actual thoughts and opinions. Okay, guys, let's get right into these little clips I want you to see.
We're hearing from the parents of Chris Watts. Now, Chris Watts is from Fayetteville. He admitted to police that he killed his pregnant wife, Shanann, and their 2 young daughters in a fit of rage in their home in Colorado. Shanann grew up in Southern Pines. Our Josh Chapin has the powerful interview between a mom and dad as they defend their son.
It was a very hard relationship. And as far as I'm concerned, I couldn't do anything right.
Ronnie and Cindy Watts said their son Chris changed once he met Shanann.
He was in sports since he was 5 years old up until he was 17 years old. There's not one person that you can talk to that will say anything bad about this kid. He was normal. He didn't have a temper. He was just like his dad, just easygoing, rolls off his back, goes on. And this is my son. He is not a monster.
Tonight they defended him, though they didn't want to show their faces on camera. This comes a week after Chris pled guilty to 5 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body.
Boils down to, I just want the truth on what really happened. If he did it all, I can live with it. If he didn't, I want him to fight for it.
The Wattses said their son's relationship with Shanann was abusive and felt she isolated Chris from his family in the time they were together. Chris's father, Ronnie, says he believes the initial thing Chris told police, that he killed his wife only after finding out she had strangled their daughters.
It's hard for me to believe that he would hurt them girls, no matter what. I mean, the story, what he told me that night, I believed it. I mean, the way he looked at me, the way he was crying and everything, I believed it.
The Wattses said they have not been able to talk much at all to their son since he was arrested in August. They insist they didn't know about a plea deal that Chris took last week. The deal meant local authorities in Colorado would not seek the death penalty.
Save his life and life in prison, to me, there's no difference. You know, he's going to die in prison, and there's no telling what will be done to him in prison. And I just want him to fight.
I forgot to mention, this was actually ran on November the 13th of 2018. So it was after Chris's sentencing. So I forgot to mention that. As you can see at the top, it is November the 13th, 2018, when this clip was aired on the local news or their local news. Okay, here is the other clip I want you to see.
I just want to make sure he's doing the right thing.
Yes.
I mean, if he didn't kill the children, I want him to say so. Then let them prove it.
Chris Watts might have pleaded guilty to all 9 counts against him last week in a Colorado courtroom, but his family says there are still unanswered questions about the case.
I want the truth. I do want the truth to come out. I don't want this to happen to anyone else. You know, he was normal. He was a normal kid, and I don't know what happened.
Shanann's family responded to the Watts family interview today, insisting they made, quote, vicious, grotesque, and utterly false statements about Shanann. Watts' family said they believe the version of events laid out in the initial affidavit, that the only reason their son killed Shanann was because he had seen her strangling their children.
What happened to that kid from Pine Forest High School?
What happened to that kid from Pine Forest High School? He met Shanann. That's what happened to him, because that boy, he knew what he wanted to do. He went to NASCAR Technical Institute. It has been a nightmare, a complete nightmare. It has been so overwhelming, and I feel like I have to do something to help my son. I need to do something. If he's not going to fight, I want to fight for him.
The Watts family told me they felt Shanann was dangerous. They didn't even go to the couple's wedding. In fact, they believed that Chris knew he was going to get life in prison for killing his wife and disposing of the girl's body. So this is why he confessed to all 9 counts. Shanann's family said, quote, her memory and reputation deserves to be protected, and her family is fully prepared to do so. Steve?
The Watts family told you that there is a letter, and they say that supports their position.
Yeah, there is a letter that they say the defense has. He said in it, he wrote, if anything happens to me, look at my wife. And apparently Chris's sister put that away somewhere, and it supports the case about their contention that Shanann was unstable.
But no more details.
No more details than that. There was a conversation about whether the defense destroyed it. I have no evidence about that, but they say the letter's out there and supports their contention.
Now, that is their truth, okay? So do not come bashing on the Watts family. Both of these families has been through pure hell, in my opinion. So, you know, don't bash on them for what they say. Even though you may not agree with it, you know, and if you know these people and you know both families personally and you knew Chris and Shanann personally, then by all means, you know, if you can prove to me that you really did know them, say what you will. Come on panel and talk to us when we do a live. But if you're on the outside looking in, like most all of us are, then don't bash on either family, because that's not right. To me, that is victim bashing just as well, because everyone is victims. They truly are. The Watts are victims. They lost their grandchildren too. Their son done an unimaginable, unthinkable act. That, can we even fathom that? Can we really fathom our own child doing such a thing, you know, with our grandchildren? We can't. So, and you know, we haven't walked in their shoes, okay? So, and we didn't live their life. So we can't just justify what one side says over the other, even though we want to, you know, even though you may want to justify one over the other, we just can't. Do I think Miss Watts was victimizing and slandering Shanann? Well, I mean, it doesn't sound good, right? I mean, let's be honest. You know, she's gone. She can't defend herself, right? So, but at the same time, maybe that's her truth, you know? And no matter how you look at it, it is her truth. And, you know, I don't want to get hate for that. I'm just speaking as anybody sitting on any jury would. And if I didn't know a damn thing about this case and I was called to jury duty on it, that's exactly how I would look at it. I would look at both sides. Absolutely. Shanann did speak and voice her opinion about the Watts family online. You know, we saw that. It's no secret that they couldn't get along. So we all know that, just to be blunt, she didn't like them and they didn't like her, and that's just the way it is. And we all have those people in our family, right? We all have one part of our family. We don't like them and they don't like us, and that's just the way it is. But as far as what the families are going through, everyone here is victims. The Watts, the Ruseks, the ultimate victims, Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico, they're the ones that pay the ultimate price. And as far as their family speaking out, that's their side. Look what I just showed you. It's news clip, public news articles of people that is allowing them to say their truth. And many of the viewers didn't agree with their truth whatsoever, right? But they were allowed to say it because it's their truth. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And even though if we don't agree with it, we're not going to on this channel bash either family at all, period. Okay, now let's get into this. Sure, by now you all know the letter I'm talking about. Let me just pull it up here. Okay, here we go. This is the letter I am actually talking about right here. Chris wrote this letter on 8/16/18. He was still in North Carolina. Okay, supposedly his mother talked him into writing this letter, and it was put in an envelope and given to his sister Jamie to hold in case something happened to him. This letter was written on August the 6th, 2018, exactly 1 week, 7 days before August 13th. And it reads, "To whom it may concern. If anyone gets this letter, I would never do anything to hurt myself or my children or my wife. If anything happens to me, please investigate my wife, Chris Watts," and then it's signed Chris Watts. A lot of people even wonder if Chris wrote this letter, right? Although I've really looked at the handwriting, I'll just be honest with you, I have looked at it, I have compared it to all the little cards and notes that he sent NK, and I fully believe Chris did write this letter. As far as the date, it actually is concerning to me, because in my opinion, the date is written bigger and bolder. And to a sense, it even looks like it could be written with a different ink pen, right? Let's look closely at it. To me, it looks like this and this could have possibly been written either on a different day or, as I say, with a different ink pen altogether. The only thing that I think about this is this letter was not actually written on this date. That's my personal opinion. I don't know that. Of course I don't. But I'll just let you look at this and see what you think. I don't even know if that's Chris's, the way he writes numbers, that I don't know. This part, I do think Chris did write. This does look like his writing. As you see, Chris writes small. He writes in tiny letters. He actually writes a lot like my son. Very tiny. But the thing of it is my son also writes his numbers very tiny, and this is not very tiny. But the thing about this letter to me is I have several questions about it. One, why was this letter held out until the plea deal? You know, why was it waited until the day of the plea deal to hand over to the defense? To me, it looks like this letter would have been of the utmost importance, like the very day, the August the 13th, you know, or even when Ronnie was actually at the police department when Chris was doing his polygraph. It just seems to me like Ronnie would have maybe called Cindy and said, hey, you know, send me a copy of that letter, or email that letter to these guys up here, or something, right? Because at this time, Chris was saying Shanann hurt the girls. Not him, Shanann. So it looks to me like this letter would have been very important to look at by the detectives that day. Why hold it until the day of the plea deal? I don't get that. And then the defense team, at which point, said, no, we're not going to use that. Why? Because it looks like it's premeditated. At this point, this letter will do them absolutely no good, way more harm than good. So, who had this letter? Who actually had it? Did his sister really have it? I mean, because seriously, if my brother wrote such a letter like that, and put it in an envelope and said, don't open this unless something happens to me. Hell no, I'm opening that letter and I'm looking at it. You know, I would, even if I didn't, okay, even if for the benefit of the doubt, I kept it in my purse and I was like, okay, you got my word, and I won't touch it, I won't open it. And the minute I heard that my nieces and sister-in-law were missing, and my brother was being accused of it, are you kidding me? I would have opened that letter. They said his mother made him write it, so obviously they knew what it said. So who really had this letter? I'm pretty sure the Wattses would have used this quickly. Just like the clips you just now watched. Cindy is very protective of her son. Cindy would walk through hellfire to save her son. That's obvious, right? Can't deny that. So you don't think for 5 minutes she wouldn't have used this letter immediately, quickly, instead of holding on to it until the plea deal? Wrong answer. I don't buy that. So who had it? Somebody had this letter. Do you think maybe somebody had it and they mailed it to the Wattses and said, hey, you know, I've had this letter for a minute. You know, maybe you need to bring this out now. Or what? I mean, what? Like, I don't know. There I am using the word like. You can tell I've been digging into this letter today. But really, what? Do you truly think Cindy had this letter for 3 months, almost 3 months, before she pulled it out and used it? I don't. And what does this letter mean anyway? Does it mean premeditation? I would never do anything to hurt myself or my children or my wife. If anything happens to me, please investigate my wife. I'm going to read to you a few of the comments I've found along the way. and what other people think about this letter. And most of these comments are very old. I've just saved them here and there and everywhere. And as I say, one of them even may be something you threw out there. At the same time, after I throw out some of their speculations, then I'm gonna maybe throw a thought and opinion of my own. I don't know. But let me just read you some of these. Okay, this one, and I'm not going to put them on screen because if it's yours, speak up and say, hey, I did that one, but it doesn't really matter. This is just various thoughts and opinions that I found out there. So I'm just going to start with the first one. It says, when Chris was in North Carolina, he left this letter at Jamie's house. His family was worried. They never liked Shanann. Quite the opposite. They felt she ruined the relationship with their son. So with the whole allergy blow-up, they were on high alert. Cindy called Chris's friend Mark to talk to Chris, and she was wanting to express Shanann may have cheated and the baby was not his, or so she said. But she wanted to make sure Chris wasn't upset with them. So when she came to visit them before going back to Colorado, they were afraid Shanann may hurt him or the kids. Now this is what Cindy told Mark. Told him to write it down for protection. Here is where I'm confused. So the day that his wife and kids go missing, they learned he asked for a divorce. Do they call the cops and say they knew their grandkids were in danger? No. In fact, they didn't react. They claimed they thought she was at a friend's house too, I suppose. Once the dogs are at Chris's home, they are searching it for clues, and they still do not give them this letter. Well, that's sort of exactly what I just said. They claim they did not open it. So Ronnie flies in to support his son during the interrogation. Does he bring the letter? No. Chris has confessed to killing Shanann, and Ronnie learns the children are dead too. He still does not mention the letter, and he tells them Shanann is bipolar and flies off the handle. He tells them about the allergy dispute, and he tells them she posted a picture with a covered doll on Facebook. So, would he not give the letter as a claim to his support? Yet they do not. If it proves the daughter-in-law she hated did it, yet they did not. They stayed quiet. So what is the reason? At first I thought maybe the letter was forged, then possibly wrote it from prison and backdated it. What is your theory? Because it definitely means something. Okay, and see, this poster pretty much almost has the exact same thoughts, almost to a T, that I wondered about this letter. Another reply was, well, it could prove premeditation. Shanann, Bella, and Cece were killed, not Chris. Seems like he could have been setting up a backstory for a defense, but it looks pretty suspicious when he didn't end up hurt at all, and the one person he said may harm him and the kids is the one that ended up dead. And that is very true too, right? So obviously, this is kind of way out of the ballpark of what the letter actually says. It's very opposite of what the letter says. Okay, another thing is the parents say they were misinformed at sentencing. Victims of crimes, the DA would have told them the same stuff they told the Ruseks. I thought that is why they thanked everyone and kind of apologized. They gave that TV interview and were embarrassed about it, I thought. But it seems they aren't satisfied now with the answers they got, maybe. It's kind of sad, and I'm embarrassed for them. And then somebody says, I don't think Cindy really understood how jail works. You cannot call your son in jail and just ask to speak to him. And then somebody says, I always thought it was actually a fake letter made by a crazy lady desperate to launch a podcast. And then this one says, I too thought K or J was making up the letter thing because they had already claimed Shanann was black and blue due to being beaten by Chris, among other things. See, I have no idea what she's talking about because I have never heard that. They were shady. I was in a Facebook group of K's, and she was nasty and blocking people who did not engage in Shanann bashing or showing love and defending the Watts family. As I said last year, those ladies need to go back to their day jobs and forget the fake inflammatory podcast. And I have no idea who she's talking about. So, if you do, then you do, but I don't. And then this one says, has anyone in the family ever confirmed the letter? I know reporters asked about it to the prosecutor, and he said it was never submitted to him. No, it wasn't, because Chris's defense team would not let it be submitted. They said it would do way more damage than good. And then somebody said they were afraid Shanann may hurt him or the kids, and they told him to write it down for protection. Protection from whom? Was it really their thought process? What did they do to protect the children? And then this one says exactly. They thought their toddler-aged granddaughters were in terrible danger, but yet they did absolutely nothing to try to protect them. The only action they took was to have their son write this letter to pre-intubate, cover his ass in case the kids did indeed end up dead, but again, did nothing to protect the grandkids, which only makes it look, in my opinion, like the murders were very much planned in advance, and that the Watts family was not only aware of the plan, and I'd also like to add, I think that this letter shows a severe lack of intelligence on the part of all who were involved in it. Chris and the Watts family really thought that writing this ahead of time would make cops go, this guy Chris suspected his wife was going to kill the kids, and lo and behold, the kids were killed. So, obviously, it was the wife who killed them, since Chris thought she was going to kill them, even though the only member of the family still alive is Chris. Case closed. We can all go home now. I mean, come on. They really thought this letter was a good idea. It was really, really stupid in so many different ways. And then someone else writes, I always felt like this letter was fake or never truly existed, like has been stated. Why wasn't this brought up at numerous opportunities by anyone in the Watts family, and especially Chris, when he claimed that Shanann killed the girls and retaliated by killing her? You would think that would be his prime piece of information his lawyers would use in his court case. Also, basically, every day of the life of the Watts family has been dissected in and out and discussed in thousands of videos, and you rarely ever hear a word mentioned about this letter, which makes me believe it is bogus. When Tammy and Coder interviewed him in February, was the letter ever brought up? If it wasn't, I think that would have been a pretty important question to ask him. And then someone writes, Chris's parents remind me so much of Casey Anthony's parents. Cindy wasn't embarrassed, she was furious, and she was in denial. Ronnie kept his head down and realized what had happened before he entered the interrogation room. Chris's sister even pulled away. And then another comment says, I just can't wrap my head around its purpose, but I've been thinking about it anyway. I don't think it would have much value in a court of law anyway. Anyone can write a letter like this, it doesn't make it true. And then this reply says, when that letter was written, I assumed Chris had a plan to kill and dispose of them all, or Shanann had a plan to kill the girls and kill herself too. Both minds were filled with doubt and dark clouds. And then this one says, I find this letter so very odd, another twist in a twisted case. And then this one says, seems very Lifetime movie to me. If this letter is legit written by Chris, then the murder may have been premeditated, and in his mind he thought the letter would be his ticket out. I wonder if this letter is indeed written by him. If Nicole Atkinson hadn't blown the whistle on him so quickly and he had time to properly dispose of the bodies and evidence in the home, if he hadn't been thinking of running away. The letter in his mind would put the authorities off his trail because it clearly said if anything were to happen to me or the kids, look at my wife. This way, Shanann isn't missing and endangered with 2 missing toddlers. She would be missing and potential a murderer with 2 missing toddlers and a missing husband. CW could run for the border and live a happy life. There's several more, but that's all I'm going to go over right now. But, that's some of the random thoughts on it. Some of them mention some of the things I was wondering myself. Who actually had the letter? When was this letter really written? This date on the letter actually looks like it was written after the fact that the letter was written. That's my opinion. Why did it take Cindy and Ron so long to give it to the defense? Because they could have used it possibly in the beginning. But after the fact, no, not so much, right? Seriously. I mean, Ron was even showing him pictures of the dog, and just showing anything he could, videos of him and of his wife playing with the girls, just the week before. I mean, he was showing them things. Why not show them this, right? Or why not even mention this? It leads me only to believe, in straight honesty, that, and my thought here, so don't run out on a ledge on me, but I don't think they had the letter the whole time. Given the circumstances and given the fact that, as I say, Cindy would do anything to save her son's ass, right? Of course she would. She's his mother, right? So she would use this quickly. Chris, he would have told them about this letter. He would have told them himself when he was already trying to put all the blame on Shanann to begin with. He would have said, I wrote a letter, while I was still in North Carolina, that she wasn't acting right. Something was wrong, bad wrong. He would have used that. Ronnie, when he was trying to pull out and show all the stops too that his son was innocent, he would have used this letter, I would think. In my own opinion, I don't even know that the Watts knew about this letter until they used it. I think somebody else may have had this letter. I'm not calling no names. I don't know. I'm not. You can all be the judge of that, and you can all have your own opinion on this letter. That's mine. Because I've studied all sides, all angles. I've studied every person involved in this case. And that's my opinion. I don't think they had this letter until they used it. I think that date that we're looking at right there was not written at the same time the letter was. There again, that's my opinion. Another thing I think is, to me, given the fact that the only one that's still alive that is mentioned in this letter is Chris himself, right? Everyone else he mentions in this letter is gone. So it's almost completely vice versa, opposite of what the letter actually states and says, right? So to me, that doesn't really show premeditation that he's going to kill them. It damn sure shows some kind of premeditation. But in my opinion, it shows more of a fake my own death kind of thing. Because we all know Chris wanted out of his marriage. We know that. We know he wanted out. We also know that he wasn't brave enough just to stand up and do it. Just to stand up and say, I want a divorce, I'm leaving. He wasn't brave enough to walk out. He was too scared of the repercussions of him just leaving everything and everyone. He was too scared of that fact. The alimony, a ruined reputation, a ruined name, possibly losing his job. I mean, he was too scared of all that backlash, in my opinion. So, that said, maybe this was plan A, you know. Maybe this was plan A. He was going to fake his own death. Disappear. And he can change his name legally, right? I mean, that's simple. I mean, any of us can do that. We just walk in and change our name. It's not a big deal. It's a pretty simple process, actually. Mexico, Canada, or some far-off country? Who knows? But to me, this letter doesn't actually say premeditation that he's going to kill his family. It could. I mean, it could say that. It could possibly, you know, lean towards the way of one of those replies up there. He did plan on doing what he was doing, and then, you know, somebody would pull this letter out. I think she ran off with the kids and hurt them, you know, and she's the murderer. And this, you know, this makes me believe it's the murderer. Maybe that is true. Maybe that is a premeditation of what he did. But to me, I think this letter was written and someone else had it for a good while. And it was more so the lines of maybe him faking his own death just to not have to face the music of walking away. You know, like him just fake his own death, leave the country, change his name, and just live happily ever after. You know, and watch his kids grow up from afar, because he knew he could do that on Shanann's Facebook, right? He would see pictures. She had her Facebook public, all that kind of stuff. So maybe that was his plan. And maybe, you know, he's like, well, you know, when the kids are grown, I'll come back and let them know what happened. Who knows? We don't know, okay? That is kind of more of my thought process. What is yours? This letter has really bugged me and annoyed me for quite some time. And I don't see it talked about much. You'll hear it in passing in conversations. Well, what about the letter he wrote, you know? But you really don't hear it broke down and a lot of thought process going into it. And to me, this is important. It's important. So what is your thoughts on it? Let me know below. And again, I want to stress the point. I don't want any family bashed on. Please, that's disrespectful. They're all victims. The ultimate victims were Shanann and the kids. Yes. But now, we can't do anything to change their fate. We truly can't. All we can hope for is they can get full justice, you know, and maybe they have. Maybe the only one that is responsible for any part of this is in prison, and, you know, he's serving his time, and maybe that is the case, you know. But at the same time, there is a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of dead air out there that's just being ignored. And you can't help but wonder about it. You know, like even Tammy Lee said, what? You know, I'm not done. I'm not done with this. We have to keep investigating this. Why do you think she said that? You know? Do you think she said that just because she just wanted to know more about how everything happened? Because if she truly thought that Chris was solely responsible for all this, then she would just be like, I mean, you would think she would just be like, good, good. He's going to take responsibility for what he did. She didn't say that. She said, I'm not done. Like there's more that needs to be investigated in this case. Even the family said on Dr. Phil, why? Even Rourke said, why? So that's why we're here. Why? They want to know why. Well, we do too. And even though it may not change anything, it would be nice to know why. Do you think Tammy and Coder, Tammy Coder and Baumover, do you think they went all the way across the country to Wisconsin just to have a chit chat with Chris? Just to find out how they need to work future investigations like his? No, I don't think that. I don't think that for 5 minutes. What did they start out the topic with? I mean, pretty quickly into their talk. Who did they start asking him about? And they weren't even scared to tell them what they had heard, we've heard this and we've heard that, and then they brought it up to him again. They brought it up to him 2 or 3 or 4 times. There's more to this story, y'all. And no matter what everybody wants to say, we're not the only ones that truly think and believe that there's a lot more to this story than what we've heard. And this letter is one of many. Okay, I'd like your opinion on it. And just let me know what you think. I'm not throwing anything out there that's lies. I'm not throwing anything out there that's conspiracy theories. I'm giving you my thought and opinion. I read you a few other people's thoughts and opinions. Now I want to hear yours. And don't be scared to voice them. Because you're entitled to them. Just like Rourke was when he gave his theory at the plea deal. He was entitled to his. And yeah, that is his job as a prosecutor to give his theory, right? That is his job. I agree. But he didn't have to do it that day. The guy took a plea deal. He didn't have to prosecute him that day. The guy prosecuted himself. So Rourke threw his theory out there simply because that's what Rourke thought. So you guys give me your thoughts and opinions. You're entitled to them, and don't be scared to say them. Just do not bash nobody. Do not name call nobody. And try not to be one-sided. Try to look at both sides, seriously. Try to put yourself, no matter how hard it is, and it is hard. It's hard. But try to put yourself in both families' shoes. I'll even go farther than that. Try to put yourself in both Chris and Shanann's shoes. Both. Try to put yourself in everyone's shoes, okay? Because really, there's a lot of people that's hurting from what happened here. It's not just 1 or 2. There's many. So, do that for me and let me hear your thoughts and opinions. if you plan to go on down here in these comments and immediately start telling me I'm just an idiot and it means this and it means that and you know, it's already been said this or that. Look, don't waste your time, okay? If you can't comment respectfully, then just don't even do it at all. Alright, guys. Let me know what you think. Hope this put some thoughts to ponder in your head and brought up something that we really haven't talked about much. I think it's important. Alright, you guys. You have a good night. This is Unjustified.